One of my favorite consoles has always been the Sega Dreamcast, but I was 9 in 2001 when the system effectively died. And that means that naturally I was a little too poor to experience a lot of what the system had to offer. That, and the one we had at the time was my brother's, so shout out to Blockbuster, because thanks to that I got plenty of time to experience some of the most popular titles, including the Sonic Adventure 1s and 2s, the Marvel vs. Capcom 1s and 2s, a whole bunch of 1s and 2s now that I think about it. I even used to play a lot of this one Spawn game back in the day, because coming out of the 90s, that was our shit. Kinda still is. All that aside, there was one game I didn't play back then called Jet Set Radio. It was Sega's take on the whole extreme sports thing that was the craze at the time, but it stood out thanks to cel-shaded graphics and a really good soundtrack thanks to Hideki Naganuma, or as he refers to himself on separate occasions, the CEO of Funky Fresh Beats or the internet's funky uncle. The last game in the series was Jet Set Radio Future, which was exclusive to the original Xbox, and I don't really know much about this game personally except for that it's only available through the purgatory of classics that is Xbox's backwards compatible catalog. Either that or you play the multiplayer mod on PC that got a lot of attention last year. But for reasons that are unclear, Sega treats this game like it doesn't exist, because if they are importing the first game ad nauseum on every system you can think of, the series gets next to no love unless they want to drop another Sonic and Sega All-Stars racing game. I mean, there is also that collab with that one game from Ubisoft called Roller Champions, but who even knows that game? It seemed like at this point, Jet Set Radio fans were just never gonna get a new game in the series at this point. And apparently feeling some type of way about that, a developer called Team Reptile announced Bomb Rush Cyberfunk, a spiritual successor to the series that came with everything fans would come to expect. The cel-shaded graphics, the skating and graffiti, they even got Hideki Naganuma on the soundtrack. It took a while and a bit of delay, but it finally came out in August of 2023 for the PC and Switch. But a later launch for some reason on PlayStation and Xbox in September? Truth be told, I was looking forward to this game a lot, but thanks in no small part to them not talking much about this game unless you were on Reddit, even though that's something I usually have praised as something that helps me build anticipation for a game that's coming out. It just led to me almost completely forgetting this game came out. But I did pick it up at launch and already ran through the game a couple of times, so I figured let's talk about it. This game is already appealing to a somewhat niche retro fandom, so the big question is basically, is it a good Jet Set Radio-like game? Spoiler warnings for the story in advance too, because this story is a lot more considered than I was expecting coming into it, so I guess just jump to this timestamp here if you don't want to get spoiled on that and just talk about the game. Anyway, today I'm going to be talking about Bomb Rush Cyberfunk on PC.
Hey, yo, Giant, let's go!
We start this game in a jail cell in the city of New Amsterdam, which is funny to me because I thought everyone liked Old Amsterdam just fine. But hey, our character gets let out of his cell by another inmate named Trice, a writer, which is a fusion of a skater and a graffiti artist. And in learning his name, our character introduces himself as Foe. And as I'm sitting here thinking, how they got me playing somebody whose name means fake? Trice is all, wait, the Foe? So I'm guessing I'm a big deal. Can't tell you why though, because while he quickly agrees to join this guy's crew, which is something I don't usually see as something someone with clout would do, it all means absolutely nothing, because 2 seconds after breaking out of Shawshank, some dude on the roof that literally wears his music taste on his sleeves throws a vinyl like a shuriken and... After that, Trice and Foe's body fall into the river below, and then we fast forward to us waking up in Trice's hideout. And before we can think too hard about that, Trice introduces us to his crewmate Bell and tell us that he got Foe's body a new head. But this isn't Foe anymore, it's more of a Dio Brando from JoJo situation. So they call this new character Red and fill Red in on Trice's plan. He wants his crew, Bomb Rush, to go all city, basically beat out all other competitors and become New Amsterdam's top crew. He was sure he could have achieved that with Foe on his team because, surprise, Foe was one of the city's big three. There was Foe, DJ Cyber, aka that guy who lopped off Foe's head, and Felix, the best of the three, who was killed under mysterious circumstances. After which, DJ Cyber started wearing the mask that belonged to Felix and started taking over the whole city with his crew, Futurism. Bet you can't figure out the reference there. He also is said to be very into the workings of the human brain, so Trice makes the assumption that the DJ has Foe's head and wants to get it back to resurrect Foe and go all city in the process. There are 5 areas, all run by different writer crews, such as the Franks. And I know that it's supposed to be a Frankenstein reference, but that's not how I read it because their leader is called the Flesh Prince.
What do you mean by that?
And Trice even go as far as to say that no one knows more about meat and machines, but he, in his own words, as an expert of rebuilding people with whatever he can find, is the one who provided Red with his head. He also gave one of his goons legs off of a Puerto Rican, which just had me crying because that's such a random thing for me to read as a Puerto Rican playing a video game. But in search of info on DJ Cyber, they challenge the Franks to a battle for their turf and the answers they're seeking. Cyberpunk Bling Bling Boy over here tries to deny it when these hip-hop pilgrims called the Old Heads show up. They're this game's version of Captain Teague from Pirates of the Caribbean. They keep the code of the streets intact and referee these crew battles.
Code is the law.
When they crown us the victor, Prince Fleshlight here tries to deny us the answers that we earned when DJ Cyber I'm starting to think that spider tanks are just going to be a running gag on the channel. I hate it. Anywho, he pulls up and says that no one can break the code of the streets, to which Trice objects because making people's heads trophies is also not street code friendly. DJ puts Red in his tank and we get transported inside his mind where things get a little artsy and then a little trippy. In these dream worlds, we get a vision of Foe before Red snaps back to reality. He wants to know more, but DJ says, "Oh, you want to know more and get your old head back? Guess you gotta go all city," and just takes off. Meanwhile, the police from the beginning section are shown to be working on something called Project Algo, which they say is supposed to help them predict crime, despite the objections of this one cop with a jetpack that we fought in the beginning. This is a lot of setup for the first chapter, but it all goes pretty smoothly following this because the whole game follows this one formula. Go to the next area, challenge the crew there, take over, and get access to more visions. But as the game progresses, we start getting visions of not only Foe, but this random guy who shows up and just makes everything all cryptic before Red wakes up. Along the way, cops that usually show up just to arrest us start getting weirdly red-eyed and violent under the assumption that we have weapons. There's even this one cop that has the same kind of head as Red, but he disappears once he gets handed an L by Red. We also meet this girl named Vinyl, who we've seen hanging around with our favorite DJ, but she insists that she's on nobody's side but her own. And later on, she decides to join Bomb Rush, but that RoboCop shows up out of nowhere and shoots Red point blank in the face with his studio trigger-ass rifle. They knock him out and Red tanks the shot, but wait, is that blood? Yeah, that robot head is not a robot head. Bell takes a pic with Red's face and he gets put out of commission until we track down the Meat Man himself to get him to fix him up. Naturally, we all want to know, why is there a head under there? But he and Vinyl get all tight-lipped, only saying that no one can know whose head that is because it's public enemy number 1, so our only option is to proceed as planned. And as all of this is happening, we learn that it's actually the cops who have Foe's head, and Project Algo involves using his mind to predict the vandal activity in the city. So basically, the cops are trying to pull a Minority Report using Foe himself as a precog.
I'm sure you all understand the legalistic drawback to pre-crime methodology.
That right there is what we call dramatic irony, where we, the audience, know more than the characters of the story we're watching, so naturally we start thinking, if the DJ doesn't have Foe's head, why is he forcing us to do all this? Well, as we move towards confronting him, it becomes clear that multiple people are invested in the outcome where Red gets his full memories and identity back. After beating DJ in a one-on-one battle, DJ finally shows his face, and Red must have been more surprised than I was to see a ginger black dude with green eyes because it shocks him so hard that we learn the truth in one last vision.
Dig it!
Red's head is that mysterious character from the vision, and that character is Felix, the last of the big three. And I called this pretty early on because if it wasn't obvious enough due to the symbolism in the visions or how they were trying way too hard to play up the mystery of this guy, the outfit gave it away. I mean, seriously, it doesn't take much to see that only one character in this whole game has no drip, except wannabe hood Chucky Finster over here, but still. So what's actually going on? Well, turns out that Felix died when Foe knocked him off of a roof and he fell into an industrial fan and got his head cut off. Man, people really need to protect their neck in this city. See, this is why I prefer old Amsterdam. Anyway, DJ Cyber and Fleshy happened to be in the building where Felix landed, and looking for answers, they found one in this guy, Solace. I wasn't really sure where to fit him in this breakdown because he shows up at multiple points to break the tone with his goofy antics and also telling us such unwanted personal information such as him being a claustrophobic masochist who likes hanging out in tight spaces because somehow that suits him. It was in one such tight space where he witnessed Foe killing Felix, and when he told the DJ what happened, that led us to the part where DJ was out for blood in the beginning. Because these three were supposed to be friends, and code of the street be damned, he wasn't going to take this betrayal sitting down. He also had the Flesh Prince preserve Felix's head, which ends up with him putting it on Foe's body the moment that opportunity presented itself. And now, the Prince's line about rebuilding people with whatever he can find makes a lot more sense now that we have full context. Armed with a full story, DJ tells us that 1, he doesn't have Foe's head, the cops do, and he pretty much is Project Algo at this point because 2, instead of a precog, Foe went full Skynet and is now trying to use the cops to wipe out all writers. Why? Because he was upset that Felix went solo to go all city. So basically,
Fly home, buddy. I work alone.
And 3, DJ has been forcing us down this path to get Felix back to his full potential because he's the only one who can stop Foe, because he was the only one who knew Foe's weakness. But before that happens, we have one last district to take over, and it's run by DJ himself. So we do the do and beat his crew in one last battle. But before we can even start to prepare for the final battle, Foe crashes the party attached to a giant police robot. But we end up making short work of him, and it seems like the fight is over when, yeah, he immediately comes back as a Final Fantasy boss and then tears Felix's head off of his body before tossing said body to the depths below. And then he snatches Solace up, saying that he's gonna take his body as his own and leaves. And as red starts to fade, we see Jetpack Joyride over here, fresh off of surviving the cops trying to put her on a t-shirt after they knocked the chief out of commission, arriving with Felix's original body, which they just happen to have in cold storage for some reason. They stick Felix's head back on his original body, and I'm just over here thinking, man, the people in this city swap heads more than the Uchiha swap eyes. But with Felix's original dripless body and the whole bomb rush crew behind him, we face off in one final fight where Felix reveals that Foe's secret weakness was that he made it to the big 3 because his dad was a corrupt cop who pinned all his criminal acts on other writers. That's another bit of dramatic irony for us because way earlier the police chief mentioned that his dad was a cop, but Foe tries to play it off. And that bluff doesn't last more than 5 seconds because Felix basically tells him, "You can't sit with us," and Foe starts having an existential crisis when Felix, using the opening provided, takes his last stock. Back at the hideout, Trice announces that the bomb rush crew has officially gone all city and a party breaks out. Meanwhile, now that Felix is back to looking like Chet Hanks with negative Riz, he thanks DJ for saving him, to which DJ tells Felix to watch the throne, and then Felix joins in on the celebration, ending the game. I gotta be honest, considering I had no expectations in the story department, this game has a surprisingly solid one to me. I mean, yeah, it thinks it's smarter than it actually has a right to be since they keep giving away their own mysteries and the whole thing with head switching is just nonsense. I guess it is a little self-serious too, considering this is supposed to be a game about skating and graffiti, but you know what? It was a lot of fun. I was coming into this looking for a quick bit of fun for the nostalgia wave, but it was oddly compelling. That's also due to the gameplay, because I think this heavily carried the pace of the game. Second time around for recording purposes, I got the story done in around 6 hours. First time though, I played this for about 20 because I was just basking in how smooth this game is. It hits a lot of the notes you expect, being Jet Set Radio inspired, but there's something about it that also feels very Tony Hawkish, but in a simplified way. You only have 3 buttons for tricks, and they're always the same trick, but that's less because it's lacking for options and more because while having a variety of tricks might have been fun and customizable, there's not really a need for that in this game. You can feel that in how this is true for pretty much every character and your right of choice. See, you not only get skates in this game, but you get skateboards and BMXs too, and they all play the same way. It's all about your preference and nothing else. Heck, you can even go it on foot and wall run or wall ride to your heart's content. You even unlock multiple characters throughout the story, some of them secret and completely optional, but there's no tangible difference between them, not even so much as a stat spread for characters, so it is a very simple game to play. It all comes down to style and what's yours. Every character also gets something called a boost pack, which is a little jetpack thing that you use to hit a little air dash, and you can hit a nitrous boost like in Need for Speed and get around quickly. Quick side note, since I mentioned that, everyone claims that Felix was famous for never using one, and he even says something along the lines of he only needs 1 wing, but I gotta ask, what does that even mean? Also, what is this then? If that isn't a boost pack, then what is it? Because no one ever points this out. I'm not buying that. But anyway, boost with your tricks also activate activate special tricks complete with a knockoff Tony Hawk special sound. They also do this thing where you can lean left or right when you're grinding, and leaning into an angle on grinds gives you a boost that increases the score multiplier. For the most part, there's no point to combos except that you can apparently post for bragging rights on YouTube and that combos help restore boost. The only other time that combos mean anything is during crew battles, but there's plenty to do before that. In every new turf, you'll find a new crew such as Eclipse, an all-girl group described as bossy and into astrology. That's funny. Or DJ Cyber's very own Futurism crew, but every area plays out the same. You track them down and complete their challenges, whether it be a little game of Horus or tagging a spot high up for rep points and stuff like that. Graffiti is pretty simple. You just do a little connect the dots here and there with the analog stick, and you do different designs depending on the pattern you draw. You get more designs as you clear these challenges, and some by exploring, but it's a pretty exciting feeling just to be rushing along, hitting a tag mid-combo, and keep it moving without missing a beat. Hell, you can even hit cops with combos and end by tagging them in mid-air. I love this because every time you do it, they run away like Red in Friday when Debo stole his chain. Anyway, doing all this gets you rep points depending on the size of the tag and the variety throughout the area. Collecting these points eventually sees you being able to challenge that area's crew to different challenges, and eventually a 2-minute score attack to take over the turf. Aside from refilling boost, this is the only time your combo game matters. Rinse, wash, and repeat, this is how the whole game goes, so it's pretty straightforward. It's also usually pretty easy to figure out where to go because you can pull out your phone and there will be a mini map on it with a mark for where to go next. I'll say that I actually don't like the map's implementation here. I mean, it's a funny millennial visual seeing your character hitting a 50+ combo while they're glued to the phone, but it's functionally kind of clunky. It would have been better to have a mini map on screen or something because there's plenty of real estate for it. Also, if you forget what you're supposed to be doing, you have to pause the game to see what your objective is, and this is probably the only aspect of the game that breaks the flow, so I feel like they could have threw a mini map on the screen and placed your objectives on the phone screen. Then everything would have been even more seamless in my opinion. There's also a fast travel system that's a whole hog reference to Crazy Taxi, and it's pretty funny because there's this mechanic where you can just start emoting with different dances, and you use these at taxi signs to call the driver. The only thing I don't like about this is that even if you find the fast travel point throughout the game, if you don't actually call him there, then you don't unlock the fast travel point. So that's a little annoying, but I also just have more fun comboing my way into every area, so I never really use this, but the reference is appreciated. That said, everything about this game is so stylish and smooth that these are just little wrinkles in the grand scheme. That and the few random collision detection glitches I ran into, but the game doesn't just stop with the Jet Set and Crazy Taxi vibes either. Across the game, you'll find more graffiti designs and colorways for your vehicle of choice, but you also find alt color fits for all your characters. This is important because as you progress the game and tag the city up, you start getting wanted stars like in GTA. And much like GTA, when you start getting up there, they escalate things from beat cops to armored units and snipers all the way to fucking attack choppers. So occasionally placed throughout the levels are these porta potties that you can use to swap outfits. Don't know why people are storing their spare clothes in there, that's kind of gross, but swapping out has the effect of hitting the pay and spray in those old PS2 GTA games. I love that if you squint hard enough, you can see that this game is sort of just a love letter to that whole era of gaming. If swapping clothes isn't enough though, you can find these checker mats all around the stages, and when you emote here, it summons all your crewmates to start a cipher. I love how they're usually just messing around in the area and having a ball on their own. It kind of just like lends a feeling of the city being alive, even more than just having the random NPCs around. But when you call on them, it starts a dance cipher where you can switch your character on the fly. Again, there's no real benefit to having all these characters aside from completionism, I guess, but when things are just this cool, who really cares? It's also awesome to see all the dance animations that are somehow always on beat. You notice that kind of thing a lot because of how good the music is. Hideki Naganuma didn't do the entire OST here, but there's plenty of talent to go around. One of my favorite tracks is one of the opening ones that plays in the very tutorial of the game called Plume by Legovi, or Legov. I apologize in advance, I don't really know how to pronounce the name. Anywho, it sets the tone right out the gate because while all of Naganuma's tracks are bangers, I honestly don't think I dislike a single song in the game. And I don't want to spoil the vibe for you because aside from whatever's playing in this video, I just think it's worth hearing them yourself for the first time without getting spoiled. That's the real treat here, almost everything else in my opinion. Either that or with the retro-styled limited voice acting, the biggest gem here is Trice randomly going, I have many praises to sing when it comes to this game, but if I'm honest, I do think that it's a bit expensive for what it is. It's a $40 game, and for as much fun as I was having, there's no sort of end game and a lack of multiplayer options, despite the clear want from fans and the inclusion of what could be very well realized multiplayer games like Horse, Score Attack, or hell, even just a free skate mode, which all leave me wanting for more. So I don't know that I'd recommend this to you at full price, especially considering that I didn't even pay full price for it. Shout out to Humble Bundle with the discount. If you can get it on sale or for for a discount, then I would highly encourage it. It's on PC and Switch at the time of my recording, and by the time this video sees the light of day, it'll already be out on PlayStation and Xbox, so you'll have all options available to you. As I said before, Bomb Rush Cyberfunk is just all kinds of fun. It's a pretty solid homage to a bunch of series from the early 2000s and provided a solid experience overall, even though I feel like it's a one and done kind of game that'll live on through its amazing soundtrack. I'm definitely satisfied with my time, and I can guarantee you probably will be too. I hope if you watched all the way to the end that you enjoyed how I tweaked the format here. I want it to flow better, so I hope that comes across, and I might experiment a little more moving forward, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Anyway, if you played Bomb Rush already, then what are your thoughts? I'd love to hear them, so maybe leave a comment or like and subscribe along the way. But until then, my name is Hector, I am one sleepy giant, and I had fun, but I need a nap. Let's pick this combo up later. Take care.